everybody, it's Tim Wilkerson, driver of the Levi and Shoup Summit Racing Ford Mustang. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about welding and why it's so important to what we do with our race team. We run a nitro funny car every weekend on the circuit of the National Hot Rod Association. These motors cause a lot of problems. A lot of you have seen big explosions out of these cars, and when that happens, a lot of things need to happen back in the shop to get us prepared for the next race. So in our business, we say preparation is 99% of the thing. So, you know, and not to beat up the NASCAR guys, but they got another lap. They can come back in and put a turn of wedge in it or put a different tire on it or whatever it is they need to do. Our car, it has to be ready to go every time it goes to the starting line. So I'm going to give you a quick, brief summary of how I got started. I'm currently 60 years old, so I've been in business since 1982. I had 6 gas stations in Springfield, Illinois, where I started out. That turned into an auto repair business. I had 60 or 70 people that worked for me at one time, and now I'm downsized all the way down to this one repair shop with a machine shop and a race car shop all in one building. So that's how I got started in this business. I've always been an automotive nut. You know, grew up in the middle 70s, the greatest generation of race cars and street cars, in my opinion, ever. So that gives you a little background of me. I've always had Chrysler products. I was always a big Hemi guy. So when it comes to funny car racing, I think it's stuck in my blood. Now, of course, I drive a Ford Mustang now because they're the best. But we're working off this base off Hemi, and it's really a cool deal that we get to talk to you about how we repair these things after a race. This car just came back from Atlanta, so we're getting ready to take this motor out of this car. So it's got these handles on it here, and this motor's only made 5 runs. So at that point, we take the motor out of the car, we take it to the machine shop, we go through the line hone and line bore of it to make sure that it's still round and straight and flat and everything's working correctly. And if it's wounded or injured, then we have to take it apart, and it goes through a whole different process of getting repaired. So at that point, it's chaos. We have 8 or 9 of these things, so we try to make sure that all our junk's in a pile, as I say, when we get to the racetrack, because, man, we tear some stuff up from time to time. We have a pretty good record of not hurting things, but we like to try to keep all our stuff in a big pile so we don't make a mess for NHRA and the fans. But that's a brief summary of how I got started. Now, what we're going to do now is we're probably going to go next door to the machine shop. We'll get started about working on the block repairs and how we do that, and how our Miller welders get us through the day. We use that thing 10 times a day, and we got the neatest, coolest, trickiest, fanciest welder that they make. And we'll start off that deal and see how it goes.
Hey everyone, I'm Ed Keibler from Round Manufacturing, and we're here at Wilkerson Service Center and Team Wilkerson's Racing, where they keep their top fuel funny car. And Jeff Jacobs is the main man here. He is the guru when it comes to machining top fuel engine blocks and cylinder heads, and also repairing them. And you know, my father used to say, practice makes perfect, and being part of a top fuel team, Jeff has had plenty of practice. So we're going to let Jeff talk a little bit about how they actually repair a top fuel block and the steps that they have to go through. You know, we get people all the time asking us, well, you know, I've got a welder, and I'm just going to lay a bead on that aluminum. There's a lot more to this science than you could ever hope to imagine. So Jeff has done this for years and is extremely good at it. So we're going to let Jeff start this program off and tell you a little bit about the preparation and the step-by-step process on how to repair a billet top fuel aluminum block. Jeff, you want to take that away?
Yes, I will. Ed, this is Alan Johnson block that actually came out of one of our customers' top fuel dragsters. Actually, for repair, it's not really as bad as what we normally see. It's got a window here that we're going to have to do. This side we're going to have to weld. Basically, when we get these things in, we'll run them through our cleaning tank. And there's cleanliness on it, especially welding is the key. From that point, we actually stuck it in the oven and heated it up to 350 degrees, and we pulled all the sleeves that were full. A lot of the times when these things go up, it'll beat up the cam box down here in the bottom of the block, and of course it'll put holes in the side of the block. Some of the sleeves won't come out, but we'll have to bore out later. We pull the studs out. A lot of people are Loctiting, as you can see right now. Usually it takes a tremendous usually takes a tremendous amount of heat to get those things loose. So that's the point we're at now with this block. Of course, you can see some dents and stuff here and there. We evaluated, one of the biggest things is when these things go up, it'll tend to split the block outside. When that rod hits, it'll tend to pull it. So
pushes the handrails apart. That's unbelievable on a billet aluminum block like this, but it'll literally push the handrails apart. How much will it push them apart, Jeff?
Depending on how bad the blow up is, but I've seen it as bad as 50 or 60,000 wider, which of course will affect the main and give me an idea of, exactly during the repair what I really need to look at. So we measure in between where the main cap's going here to see just about how bad that is. And then we'll also try to take a measurement. This block has already got repair saddles put in it, so I put this saddle and put that in there. Okay, they're not too bad. Width-wise and stuff, we'll be able to use it for the same caps and the same saddles again if we need to.
I look at this block, Jeff, and you say, hey, this one isn't very bad, and you guys can't see from the camera, but man, there are 2 pistons that are lodged in there with broke-off aluminum rods, and I'm going to tell you what, it looks like somebody got in there with a 5-pound ball-peen hammer and just beat the heck out of this block. So this is just amazing to me, Jeff. Someone just as talented as you, that takes talent to be able to fix something like this. So it just amazes me.
Well, a lot of it, also is preparation and having the right equipment and having the right stuff to do it, and of course having a lot of knowledge.
Right.
Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of these.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly, because even today I'm still learning stuff about them, especially, like with this block, this is the new design 4-bolt main block.
Okay.
That up until, it's been a few years ago when Alan came out with a 4-bolt main. Now we converted this one, for this customer, and it was just only a couple of months ago. The biggest concern I had when we were doing that is we had to cut so much out of the side here to get the 4-bolt main cap. And those main caps are 2 inches wider than the standard.
Okay.
And I was worried that, if you blew it up, that maybe it would not be repairable. But I've only seen one so far that really wasn't repairable. And I guess on that note, everything's repairable. It just depends on how good you want it when it's done and how much money
and how much you want to spend.
Right.
There's a point where obviously you'd spend so much time on something like this, they could go buy a new block or a used block that hasn't been purchased.
Exactly.
So there is a point of no return.
Yes. Next step after, what I've already done with this block is I'll get these pistons out.
How do you do that, John? How do you get something that's lodged in there like that? Just sheer brute force, you just beat them out?
Yeah, a lot of times that's what I start with. Sometimes I've actually had to get in and actually try to cut them. Like put a hole in the top side of the piston to get a sawzall in there and slice down through the skirt, because a lot of the times they'll just distort so bad that
you can't get them out there.
You can't get them out the bore, and the sleeve is so tore up and shoved into the block you can't
pull it all out at one same time.
And so once the pistons get out, we'll bore these sleeves out, and I'll actually on this side here, I'll just take and I will cut this section out, and I'll actually cut it out, machine it out, and I'll make an aluminum piece that I can actually put back in there that actually has a press fit to it.
Okay.
And then that's when all the welding starts.
And when you say cut them out, Jeff, how do you do that? Do you do that by hand, or is that done on the machine, or
generally I'll put it in the machine.
You have a program that just goes in and cuts that out to a given dimension.
Given dimension, and that way, it's like it's got square sides, nice bottom.
Right.
You're not trying to, you can make a nice piece to put in there.
Okay.
That's important for strength also. And then there's just a tremendous amount of hand grinding. Preparation on the aluminum, a lot of the time, just some of the little dings and nicks and stuff in here, there will be pieces of rock wool, pieces of ring, pieces of this in the sleeve or something stuck in there. And if you go to try to start welding that, that's just going to contaminate the weld.
See, I would have never thought about that. So you have different metals, and so like a piston ring or a rod bolt isn't going to weld, and then it's going to contaminate your okay.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I like cutting out, because a lot of the times, that's not a very big hole. Some people just shove that back in, weld it up, but there's cracking all through it. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of force for that rod to do that.
I would think so.
And it's going to crack the aluminum. And I've actually had some people bring blocks in that have been repaired that we did service with. They put that whole line on them and put sleeves in the home and or if they, do anything else. And they say, well, I got a leak over here. It seems leaking well. Man, if you try to weld that up, it's just like a highway of oil down beside that block. You never, ever get it out.
You'll never get it out.
You never get it out. So you might as well start right at the beginning, make sure you put that stuff loose. And sometimes I run into some cracking when I'm welding it. I see it opens up. Okay, and I'll just chase it down.
So when you start heating that up with a welder, you literally see the block where it was maybe a hairline crack. It will actually open up and to bigger, and you fill that in with weld.
Okay. And then after all the welding is done, and then we can start the machining process.
What's it take, Jeff, typically? A block like this, let's say you're ready to weld. How much welding time will you spend?
On a block like this, I would probably spend about 3 hours.
3 hours. And welders are important also, I assume, what type of welder do you like and what do you use, Jeff?
Basically, here we use a welder. We have a Dynasty 400.
Okay.
And it is just a fabulous machine. I love that thing. It's infinitely adjustable and it works really good. Gas is important also. I use a mixture, a 50-50 mixture of helium argon. A lot of people use straight helium. I never really liked welding with straight helium. Okay. To me, it was like welding with a plastic torch or something that's really kind of violent. But the helium will give you penetration. It'll really drive the welding, but the argon will kind of keep it pointed.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you do a helium weld, and we've got a block I can show you where helium weld is done on, it's kind of gray. The weld's gray.
Right.
And that's just because of the helium.
The argon will actually kind of help clean that and make it more the brighter aluminum.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think it's a clean. With aluminum, you've got to keep the welds clean. Once you contaminate that aluminum, it's pretty much on the blocks, I don't see it as much or as bad, but when we do cylinder head repairs in the chamber where you burn up the chamber, you don't get all of that burn up aluminum ground out of it, or if somebody else has welded it and contaminated it because they didn't clean it well enough, or they had a bunch of tungsten shedding into the aluminum, then it's just almost impossible to actually fix that, where it's going to continue working without just keep melting that aluminum repair out of it.
So if that aluminum, if you repaired a combustion chamber in one of these billet aluminum heads, and you don't get the contamination out, that is much more susceptible to I'll call it re-injuring it, or what will happen is the violence of the nitronol will just literally melt that area. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's great information. I would have never realized that either.
With the Miller welders, the frequency and all the adjustments that you can have on that welder are actually infinitely adjustable. Most welders and stuff like that, and on the Dynasty series, they're kind of preset.
They kind of lock you into given frequencies and all.
And you can, on our Dynasty 400, and I think all the Dynasty series welders, you can save in the memory your adjustments for different things. Okay. Like if I wanted something different on the cylinder head than I did on the cylinder block, or vice versa.
So, being completely ignorant of this, I'm not anywhere close to this talented. So we talk about the varying of frequencies and all. I assume, and again, this is me talking just from the school of dummies, different billet aluminum or maybe different thicknesses take different frequencies for penetration, better penetration, or where does the variable frequencies come in?
Well, a lot of the times they're going to come in with more or less thickness of how much you have to, on certain parts of this block that'll have to go 3/4 of an inch thick and some are 3/8.
Okay.
That helps out there. With the differences in the materials, being cast or billet or, rod, the rod that we use, and there are a lot. I mean, I've got 6 or 7 different welding rods that I have here that for repairs. Because sometimes we get into welding casting.
Okay.
And sometimes it's just, most of the time it's just the building. And I've got a different rod that I use particularly for like the window. I'll just use a straight up 56 welding rod. It's a pretty strong rod. If I do a deck repair, I use what's known as A356. It's also now to change the number of that rod to 4008. It is a harder rod. What I found with that, especially on something here where it's structural, that A356 is a little hard. It's really prone to hot weld cracking, and it's really prone to stress cracking afterwards because it's so hard.
Oh, okay.
But now on a deck repair on a block or a cylinder head, you want it. I mean, that's going to be because it's a lot harder and it's going to, it's going to be a lot stronger.
Right. So, okay, we've figured out you got to knock the pistons out of this bad boy and get all of that stuff done, and we've talked a little bit about the cleaning process, and I know you talked about one of the first things you do is you throw it in a tank. And when we talk about tank, are we talking about like a pressure washer? Do you use your Axe pressure washer back there, or how do you initially clean this?
Initially clean it, we do put it in the Axe pressure washer. Okay. And we let it run in there for quite a while. And matter of fact, after I get the sleeves on and do that again to kind of see the camera can see what we can see. Yep. See, we have oil leaking out from behind us. Right. Behind those sleeves. Yep. And some of the other things that we would
I don't know if you can see that, but you can see there's puddles of oil right there that's leaking out from behind the sleeves.
It seems to collect a little better.
Yeah. And so once we bring it out of the tank and you beat those out, then I think you said you put it into an oven at about 350 degrees. Right. How long do you usually leave it in there, Jeff? I usually leave it in about an hour. About an hour. And like I said, and I use the terminology, anything that pulls will take out. Because some of the times, because it's, it beats the bottom of the sleeve up so that even if there's not a piston in it, that it won't. You might be able to get it up a half an inch or something like that. If you really wanted to try and put a sleeve puller in, you can drag that thing out, but you're really damaging the block. Yep. So anything that doesn't just pull out by hand, I leave, and the ones that I can't get out, we'll put them in the F79 and we board these things out. Okay. And then after that, and all the hand work is done, I call it hand work, the grinding work, cleaning up everything. Even like something like that. I can roll back in and that's clean aluminum. I'll grind that. Okay. You never know what's on the surface. You never know all that. I'll grind that. Anything I'm going to weld is going to get ground. It's going to get ground. Okay. So I was, that again, being a complete novice at this, this is extremely informative because you first clean it, you then bake it, and baking it is really to remove the sleeves and things like that. Plus, I suspect it probably tries to pull some of that oil out of the pores and all. Yes, but then the big thing is just good old elbow grease and with a grinder in it, and you're grinding a lot of this area out. And it's for cleanliness. It's to get rid of all the impurities and all the other metals that might be embedded in that after this thing grenade. Exactly. Okay. And in some sections where it gets thick, I'll beat it deeply so that when I go in and weld, and when I weld, it's a multi-step process because I'll put what I would call a window in my piece in there. And I'll have it ground down to where it's no more than 3 inches thick, or sometimes down to a 1/4 inch thick, and I'll beat it way back, especially on the outside and on the inside. So I can get in there and I'll do what I call a re-weld. I will actually weld the piece into the block. And then I start my glue work on the outside and the inside. Okay. All right. And that being and all and that narrowing is for better penetration. Better, easier penetration. So when we talk about penetration, there may be some people out there that don't understand what we're talking about when you say penetration. Explain that to guys like me that, don't know which end of the rod you're going to have. Okay. Penetration basically is getting both metals actually melted. Okay. So you melt them together. Yeah, well, we will use the filler rod, but we have to get both of them melted. And we have to get it almost complete penetration where from the outside to the inside, anything that was welded in there was actually melted while it was welded. Okay. A lot of times we'll run across
other repairs or stuff where it's been welded. It's a nice looking weld, but I call it a surface weld. They got enough of the surface material melted to get the rod in there and to hold the piece in there, but it's not structurally strong. It'll crack or break, and another rod hits it, it'll just sling that piece out of there. It's not really welded together. Okay. And until you get 100% penetration where everything is actually melted and you've got to fill the rod in there, that's the strongest that's welded.
But before we started rolling, I think you were telling me that you had a block in here that had been repaired prior to Jeff getting it, and as you were talking about, you cut these out, and there's just a square piece of metal, obviously light material, that you put in there and weld, and this block had another accident, and it literally just blew that piece out clean, because the guy before Jeff didn't have enough penetration to actually lock that piece into the block. It looked great, but there was no penetration and therefore no strength.
No strength at all, and you can see that in the block. You can see the actual parent middle of the block and everything is welded. You can see the weld on the outside and on the inside where they welded the piece, and they actually had very minimal penetration just the outside of the surface of the material. But they really didn't know all kinds of stuff. And that's hard, I'm telling you, it's really hard to get, especially when you get that big. And I like to be in it because you can, especially with the Miller Dynasty 400. I mean, it's a stout machine. I mean, I can get that penetration, but what I don't want to do when I'm welding is I don't want to take the time to put that much heat in it and weld that long to try to do it all in one shot. Okay, it's better for the metal, and it's better, stronger weld, I feel. That if I can get in there and have something thinner and actually get it welded, like I call it a root weld, I'll do the outside first, and then I'll come back in and do the inside on both sides, and I'll make sure. And after doing the outside, I can see on the inside that I actually did have penetration, because you can see that if there's nothing level and there's kind of buzzing in. And I'll do that, and then like I said, on top of that, I would just do what I call a total weld. Okay. And I'll get it back to the size that it's supposed to be.
And probably less heat in it like that distorts the block less also in the welding process.
Exactly. It distorts the block less, and it doesn't, everybody uses the term take the heat treat out as that on the aluminum. Anytime you have to weld it, you're not doing it in the face. Okay. If you weld it correctly and you weld it right the first time, then you shouldn't have any problem with that.
So we've pretty much done all of that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to swap blocks, because Jeff's been good enough to show us another one that he's prepared to weld and actually started welding on. So we're going to switch the camera or the camera angles to another block and kind of show you the process that Jeff goes through in the weld to actually weld one of these blocks up correctly. All right. So what we've done is just rolled another block in here that, again, Jeff was good enough to kind of semi-repair and show us what the process that he goes through. So I'm going to turn this over to Jeff and let him explain all of it's just amazing if the camera guy can kind of pan in here and see what's going on in here. It's just pretty amazing is what Jeff does or the process that he goes through. So Jeff, take it away.
All right. This one here was a bad repair.
Okay.
This was pretty violent, and this one was pretty bad. And of course, we can see that once again here, it blew both sections completely out. And like the first block, it just what I call bulged one side and put a small hole in the other side. Okay. These were completely missing, and of course, like I explained on the other block, we went through and machined, and I've got pieces in here, and I've started welding. And like I said, I started my root weld, and when you get down inside, I've actually got that one on this side already filled. Okay. And it's ready for machining, because one of the things I'll do, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, is when the machining process, I'll go back through and I'll re-machine the whole inside of it. Plus I got the camera back, and plus I got the pocket back. I still have some welding to do on the outside here to fill in, and you can see just like this one, we did not do this repair. This is a previous repair from somebody else.
So this block had been repaired once before,
and it didn't hit it as high as it did the other one. I've got one small piece in here, and then I've got one large piece in here. And like I said, my root welds I got very good root welds inside and outside, welding both of those pieces together and welding both of those pieces to the block. Now I'm just doing the filler well. And what I found, I've got this camera done. What I found in the past, and a lot of times, we just cut a piece. We leave our window short, and we cut a piece and put in there and just via and weld across there. I found in the past that as much as I've tried, that eventually they'll crack.
Okay.
And that turns into an oil.
Right.
And I just got tired of it, so I physically weld the camera.
Okay.
And it's all complete weld. This side is done. This side I still need to fill in. One of the important things about welding one of these blocks is trying to keep it straight, not distorted. Some people, everybody has a different way.
Right.
I guess is what I've always been taught and use what I call jack screws, where I put them in between each weld, and these things are tight.
You see that, and I'm just amazed that there's a jack screw on between all the main sides, one on each side. Plus you've got screws that your side bolts on that normally your side bolt to your side of your tabs. You've got rod in there also. And so that's holding this block in, Jeff, the handrails, because it tend to want to blow apart, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, it already spread during the incident.
Okay.
And I didn't want to spread them anymore. And believe it or not, when I tighten these things down, because I've taken this up measurement for near an hour, sure, I can actually pull these together about 30 pounds.
Wow.
But unfortunately, when you lose them up, they come back.
They spread back.
Okay. But not any worse than they were before.
Okay.
And even with all of this, you are going to distort the block.
Well, sure.
Especially if you do full-blown windows like this, because it's trying to pull the block together when you're welding.
Okay.
And if you don't do this, your main line, you're going to have a tremendous hard time getting your main line back, especially on these Chrysler Hemis and Trust Enemies on the code. And if you get that through kick or something like that, no end play.
Yeah,
it's just
catastrophic failure.
It is definitely catastrophic failure. This one is going to need wider main cap when I'm done with it.
I was going to ask you that. So this block has been spread. How do you repair that? Obviously this distance from here to here is larger or wider now, and so your typical main cap that came off this, if it wasn't all beat to heck, would just be sloppy in there. So you actually have main caps that are wider. Okay.
Yeah, Allen, and this is a 2-bolt. Allen makes his 2-bolt caps. I mean, generally a standard cap on the white Parker 7. Okay. He makes them with 50,000 zippers. You get all the way up to 7,100, 7,050, 7,150. And then we just come in and we machine it.
And so you have a program that what you'll do is you'll take a 50,000 slider cap, and maybe this is 30,000 slide, and you'll actually go in there with the machine and machine those so that cap gets tight again.
Okay. And one thing I do, and this is one of the things that I love about RX-79, is I will do that because it's a cemetery. I will do that in a 4x. Okay. And it is going to locate the block up. There's something else that happens when you blow these things up. They bend, they twist, they bleed. Nothing is in line. The crankshaft generally is not the center of the block anymore. There's really not a tremendous amount you can do about that. You can try to fix it, but everything's so distorted, there's really nothing to come back and indicate and say, this is where it's supposed to be. Now it's moved, and we may be talking 3,000s, 10,000s, It all depends on the severity of the blow-up. But the thing I like about that is, like I said, I can put that in there, and then that 4th axis, it locates my front rear main and also my rear cam. So now, even if this block is distorted, I can fix these 3 main caps on the same center I want to front rear, even if it's not the right location. Okay. And it also helps out for decking or boring it with the cam locator in there, because I know with that machine, if I roll that thing up the decking for the counterboard or lower that cylinder, I know that I am 45 degrees off of my cam and my crank and my cam. So I'll put it in there, and I split it. I don't say I got to put the wider cap. I'm going to take 25 off this side, 25 off this side. You can't do that because it may have moved more on this side than it did on that side. Wow. So with the F79, I have what I call the center whiteboard, which I've indicated on my fourth axis, and I know exactly where the center line of the located are, which is going to be the center line of my main line. Okay. And then I split it in half. And what I do is I put 3,000 press on this. It presses down here in the bottom of the cap, and it presses on the side. So I got two different things to cut. I split that in half, and I give 1.5 on the side. Okay. And then I'm in the center. The caps wind up somewhat centered, and then after I get that on there, I can come back through and I can line board.
Now we talked about, and we're talking about the mains right now, and how when the block, when you grenade one like this and destroy it, how it distorts it. What about the cam?
So it raises havoc with the cams. This one probably isn't bad enough, but one thing I will do, and luckily again, it's generally if it moves anything, it's just going to be something free. Okay. 2, 3, 4. A lot of the times, if it really moves the handrails out and distorts the mains, what it will do is it will sink, especially on number 3. It will sink it down, and that transfers down into your number 3 camera, where all of a sudden, the thing's ancient. Okay, the hole that you have there. Sure. And luckily with these, the camera is ridiculous. The oversized start. I give it 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, then they go on 10,000 oversized increments. And once again, that's something that I do in the 7 times.
So you'll actually line boring the cam boards.
Exactly.
Put them back in line.
And I will, go to an oversized. And once again, at the front, there's a lot up here, and usually you don't have any distortion up here, and then in the rear, you have very little distortion there. So if you can line up off of those cam bearings, I can put these 3 right back in line with those.
And then the cam lines up and cranks in.
A lot of the times, this block has saddles put in it already. That's a main board repair.
So talk a little bit about saddles here. So what you've actually done there is you've line board or cut this saddle much larger, and then you have a shell, I'll call it, that goes in there, but you also cut where your main caps made. You cut that deeper, and so that shell, that repair, sits in there and puts the saddle back to the right diameter, and then, or the bore back to the right diameter, but then also raises the block up back to where the center line of the cap is the center line of the board.
The center line of the board, exactly. Yes, we machine, just like you said, we machine the main bore out. Normally these are, the actual spec for these is 2942 to 2942 and a half actual main bore diameter. But most people, like Tim, they want to squeeze it down a little bit. We're 2941, 2941 and a half. Okay. The OD of the saddle is 3250. Okay. So a board for the 3250 hole, and the piece that goes on the top of the main saddle itself is called an ear. So starting out, they would give you a 150 ear, so it's 150,000. Down 150. And on these Allen Johnson blocks, basically from your handrail to your main saddle, so I can come back and I can say, okay, and once again, with a lot of this 9A, I have all my fuel heights set up off the crank test. Okay, so when I actually go through the machine that would be zero. That main saddle is dead center in the crank test. So I know that's zero, so when I set up and machine to make the test and set to 150 here, I just say, start at 0 and stop at 150. Okay. And they make varying different saddles, different OBs, and different heights. Okay. So you can, if you have saddles in it, then you can come back and if one of them, your first one's bad, and you come back and you put the next one in and fall back up like that. So that's not a one shot.
So we were also talking about, on these Chryslers, the center main is the thrust main. So, and obviously you've got these jack screws in here to try to keep them from distorting, but obviously when you blow one up like this, there's probably some distortion. Do you have to recut the thrust on a block like this once you repair it? Usually I do have to. Okay, like I said on this one, of course, 30-odd saddles, but I'm going to have to replace the main cap and put a wider main cap.
So I'll automatically just put brand new saddle. That way it's rounded. One of these things do when you're running normally is it will play 2 and 4 and it's 3 to a certain extent. And it kind of moves the main board over a little bit. I mean, as much as if you were to measure it, the close you can on the party line, that would be somewhere 10,000 bigger on the party line. And I don't want to take a used saddle, I've said that before. My work for used saddle. But in the case where they have a used saddle and they want to put a cap on it, well, the saddle is still going to be way off on that side. It's going to be 5 pounds big on that side, and the cap's going to be exactly on that side. So what I'll do, especially on this, is once I get the caps on the line board, I will come back in and I will adjust this because I can thrust face the saddle wider than what the thrust face on the block is. So when I do thrust face it, I can bring it back.
You can bring it back.
And if it has turned any in the process of thrust facing it, it'll also cut the block further forward or further backwards than what it needed to be.
Set everything back perpendicular to the
crankshaft coming out. So that way you're going to have info and everything's going to be nice. Because on these things, I don't know what anybody else does. I like to see 10,000 something of
crank things like this.
And in the past years, we've noticed on these just running because of how they're running the clutch and stuff like that, that the clutch will actually pull the crankshaft backwards, and it'll hurt the front leg more than the rear part line, which is normal. I mean, in an automatic vehicle or even in the race car, most of the force is on the rear.
So on the rear, the crankshaft up in front of the lock.
Yeah.
These motors, it tries to suck it down.
Yeah, the clutch will pull out.
That's what 10,000 horsepower will get you, right?
Exactly. And one of the other repairs, I don't know if I'm going to have to do it on this one, are the main slippers.
Okay.
A lot of the times it will, if it really spread the block bad, of course that's going to come in there, and instead of having your main slip straight up and down, it'll be good. And a lot of people don't mind that. And it's not too bad. It's okay, you just have our get the cap on and off there. It's really, I mean, if you think about it, loading the cap and stuff like that, if you got a bent stud, it's not going to be pushing on the cap.
Right.
Or if it pulls the threads, which seems to be a problem that's happening over the last few years, it'll start really pulling and stuff out. These things start out, they're a 5/8 thread in the block. It's a 9/16 thread. We have one repair sliver for the recruits, and there's actually 2, but they're essentially almost the same size. One of them is a 5/8 STI helical thread, which is 5/8 11, and it is almost I mean, short of a couple thousand.
Wow.
And the ones we use is they make an actual 3/4.
Okay.
Heel and straight thread. And we can bore that out. And that's again,
Use that on the
yeah, because
Right.
we're pretty much, I mean, we got the camera cranker being straight up down, and once we've done all our machine work, I can go in there, I can bore the hole, perpendicular, I can cap it. And the thing about it is, I haven't seen enough of them yet, but I've never seen anything solar. And it gets pretty scary because there's not a lot of room in this.
No, you don't see that.
Once you put one of those in, you thought, wow, this is holding some in there. But never hold a lot of room. That's one of the reasons why we have block was, people make size that more both kind of
Yep. So that pretty much sums that up.
That's basically the bottom end. A lot of the times when it hits, you can see just you can see areas like that actually
Right.
And that model hits the bottom of the cylinder, usually in a cam box. That head just goes way out.
Sure.
I'll weld that up, and then I get the mains and all that, taken care of. I'll put it back in the N79, and I'll try to bore that back to standard size. And I'll take a measurement. And if it's far enough out of the ground, then we have oversized sleeves.
Oversized,
actually.
deep sleeves.
Yes. They actually bore the block with those sleeves. And the problem, especially with motors, whether it's in the extra or any part, is that sleeve, AJs have what they call light sleeve. But I've even seen some different sleeves do the same thing. But a sleeve will actually take a shape.
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
You get it out of round, it'll actually grab that visibility. I've seen cases even on Tim's car, when I was working on Tim's car, we had a block that we repaired and a little bit out of that, and we ran it, we were race track, turned the sleeve up, put it out, and you sleeve it up, boom, that's how so what happened was it all the, I mean, it was far enough out around where it
lost all your piston wall.
Yeah, it just wrapped the piston and pulled the out part.
And so we might explain this, maybe most people know this, but on these fuel cars, you know, they change, if they don't hurt the block on the pass, they change sleeves and pistons every run. And so what happens is you know, typically you'll push a new sleeve in there, and what Jeff's talking about is if that bore in there is out around, that sleeve will actually conform to that bore tool. Well, because you're not re-honing the sleeve once it's in the bore, then that sleeve takes that same shape as the block, and you lose your piston to wall clearance, and it'll seize the pistons in the block. So these guys they're just absolute magicians. If you've ever been to a top fuel race to watch these guys work, they have 1 hour to turn these things around. I mean, they tear them completely down and put them all back together in an hour. So it's an unbelievable process. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in it once in a while. I get to go with Tim to some of the races and clean parts for him. But it's just absolutely poetry in motion to watch these guys work on these motors.
Well, after, you know, we determine, you know, if we have to bore and sleeve or anything like that, one of the things is you'll get a hint on this when you go to do your line, especially like I told before with the camera, something before the which is it happens, it's right in the middle of the block. So that's where we'll also transfer to the gun.
Well, sure, that's right, yeah.
So I go ahead, and when I got it in on the board and stuff like that, I'll plug it in. So a lot of these guys, they're not real concerned about time spot because the sleeve, you know, sticks protrudes, right? Protrudes about 7 thousandths, and there's a O-ring in the cylinder head, and there's a receiver groove in the sleeve. So it's basically, it's got the cylinder sleeve. You know, you can have quite a bit of variance in your deck and not even have an issue with that.
Okay.
But I don't like that. So usually, and a lot of them are real, they don't like that because they've got, you know, common areas where I use this length drive, this height piston, sure, my piston, they all protrude, you know, where generally on a normal automotive car, the piston is below the deck surface. Well, these things hang out almost, and sometimes, you know, over a quarter of an inch or even higher. I mean, they're 250 to 300. I haven't been around those in a long time, but the pistons stick out of the bore.
Probably what a lot of people don't realize, you know, is you just think, okay, well, they need more horsepower, they put more nitro in there, but that's not the case a lot of times. I've seen them where they actually have head gaskets that are a couple of thousandths difference in thickness, and they get to a race, and maybe it's better air, or the air's worse, it's got more water molecules in it, and what have you. They'll actually change the thickness of the gaskets, won't they, to change compression ratios, just a minute amount, but it makes a whole difference in the work.
It makes a tremendous amount of difference, you know, even a couple thousandths.
Right.
And then a lot of times, especially if they've already run the car a few times and they're looking at it, they'll even have a different thickness head gasket on either side of the motor, you know, by a couple thousandths. So, on the right side, I want 17 thousandths.
Sure.
But we can go ahead and flatten the deck. They don't like that because, you know, all of a sudden your deck's shorter, right? The way I look at it is you always make a big bridge and you measure how far out the piston is to determine the head gasket over what compression is on. Let's take 5 thousandths off the deck and you go, okay, you got a 5 thousandths different head gasket.
Yep.
We do that, and then of course we go through every time a little bit.
That's what I was going to ask you. So once you deck it, then because those sleeves have a lip on it, you have to counterbore that to make sure that sleeve doesn't protrude too much, you know, to where that copper head gasket won't see it.
Exactly. And that and cam drives, and the one thing is, you know, we'll do the mains. I like doing the mains first because everything is judged off of that for the rest of the chain on the block. A lot of people wait in line on it later, but generally I just want to have it. Yep, I found it much better. I found that you can control your size better. And mean, and it's, and right on them too. I mean, you're taking the risk of
Sinking the crank. Right.
And that's one thing we don't want to do in this instance. They do make undersized idler gears, and it's always going to be people use on older jobs. But I mean, if you line board, you're not going to sink the crank.
Right.
It's going to be really explosive.
Okay. Well, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Man, Jeff, we really appreciate all the knowledge. That's a ton of information, and we're going to move on. I think we do have a completely, in other words, Jeff is what I call a Rembrandt of aluminum blocks. I mean, I need one of these repairs for my coffee table. I mean, it's just a beautiful work of art. We're going to roll another block in here and show you what kind of work Jeff actually does, a finished piece. So we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, everybody, we're back. We've done the switcheroo, and what we have here is a block. I think it's an Alan Johnson, is it? It's an Alan Johnson block that Jeff has repaired. And I'm going to kind of let him explain to you some of the things he's done, because just to look at it, you may not even be able to see or notice how he's repaired this block. And we'll let Blake, our cameraman here, kind of take a view on the inside and all. But Jeff, why don't you go ahead and explain some of the things that you've done here now?
Well, basically, this one had thrown rods out in this section here, so I put a window in here, and then welded up the fan rail, put a window in here, and welded up the fan rail. One of the things we didn't talk about before was after I do the windows and all the welding, I can put it back in the F79, and I've got a program that I can actually.
And you actually cut this pocket.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to look at it, you can't tell that that's a repair.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like to do, and I like to get the thickness again, because a lot of the times that's done for lightning, but also it kind of helps block it. If you do throw the rod out, and it's got a place to go.
There you go.
I mean, one of the things that does happen and can happen is if the parts can't get out, man, let me tell you what, it'll destroy the inside of this thing, including the crankshaft, the oil pan. I mean, everything is gone.
I've been in this business 47 years, and I've never had a guy tell me that you want to make this a little bit thin because a rod needs a place to go. Okay, and I've never looked at it that way. That is fantastic. If it stays in, it creates more damage. So there you go. Just got a new tidbit there. Go ahead, Jeff.
The cylinders in the block have been, all the weld that actually had to happen on the inside here, where it kind of beat up the cam box and stuff, and it even beat the cam box up back here. Have been bored out. We have basically standard size sleeves back in this block. Okay. They've been honed. This one in particular, I didn't have to exactly recount or anything like that. So it was a pretty nice repair. Machine, it's been machined out on the inside. There's some spots I didn't get enough welding done. But that's more cosmetic. You can actually see, and this is something good for people that are getting watch repaired or something like that. I mean, you can see evidence, because I didn't cartridge roll the inside like a lot of people do. You can see evidence where the jack screws were actually in here when it was done. Yep. And everything's been cleaned up. Had new cam bearings. Cam fits nice, turns nice. Cylinders are nice and round. The deck's nice and flat. And it's ready to go out there and hopefully not have this happen again.
Good to make another 3-4 second pass, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's about it. We hope this has been informative, everyone. And if you have any questions, boy, feel free to get online and text us questions, and we'll be glad to try to answer them. And again, Jeff, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Tim and Wilkerson Racing for allowing us to disrupt the shop here for a couple hours. So we'll turn it back over.
Welcome back to the Engine Performance Expo. Ed Keibler, Chuck Lynch, Joe Castello back on set. Guys, time for Q&A. Folks out there, if you have a question, put it into the chat section. We've got a couple already, but really cool. We'll have Tim Wilkerson on the property here later, but a lot of drag racing talk going on this weekend with the Thunder Valley Nationals in town. But seeing one of those 11,000 horsepower nitro blocks worked on and repaired, and there's a comment in the comment section from Joe who's like, I don't know if I would ever trust that with that kind of power. Well, that's why they did all that work, because they know that it is going to hold up, and that's how they are able to keep these teams going. You can't just trash a block as soon as there's a little bit of damage. They repair them for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. Grind out that material. You're putting the same material back in. And in many types of welding, over history, we've always learned that at the weld joint is actually stronger than the base material itself. And in other cases, many times the stress is relieved during that. So furnace welding, things of that nature. So you relieve other stresses. So it's not bad.
They go bad. There's a lot of people that are in business doing just that, repairing aluminum blocks for nitro engines, and so that is kind of interesting. So if you got questions, put them in the comment section, and we'll get to them. And we got a couple minutes for Q&A. We've got some more later, and in fact, Tim Wilkerson is going to be here on the set. Ed's going to go get him over at the track, and I think that's just super cool. Now, one other comment I want to throw out there. Some people were talking a little bit about audio quality, and we just want to stress that these are videos that are being recorded during actual work in actual shops. So it's not like we created a set and we've got a part that we're going to use as an example. You kind of walked in on them doing actual work for the actual race team.
Absolutely, yes, and we take to heart what the viewers commented on, and I think last year one of the comments was several of the fellas commented that we didn't really want to see the smoke and mirrors and the real pizzazz and the fancy videos. We wanted to see the meat and potatoes. Well, we're giving you the meat and potatoes this year. So yeah, we do apologize for the video, but that was a working shop. They do a lot of other things besides just top fuel block repair. They're in an area where what we call ag, a lot of farms around there, and so they're doing diesel repair and engine repair, and they even have a repair shop up front where they're doing mechanic work. So very busy shop, and we appreciate them letting us get in there for an hour and do that sort of thing.
And for those who don't know, Tim Wilkerson won the Dodge SRT US Nationals, NHRA's biggest race this year, and he's in the middle of the playoff and championship, and you caught them right in between races. So
yes.
that was a real moment, a real repair block that is going in a real race car for real competition. So if there's a little noise in the background, guys, got to deal with it.
Yep.
That's the way I think about it. Not yelling at you. But that's just my opinion. But Chuck, we've learned a lot over the course of this past couple of days, and welding is a big part of it, right? In that, if you try something and it doesn't work, well, you don't throw the head away. You just put a little more material in there and then grind it back off and go in a different direction.
Right, especially in the aluminum world, drop a valve, piston drives it back through the head. You can fix that. You can do it in cast iron, much more of a challenge. But we aren't racing too many cast iron heads these days.
Yeah.
And really, that's kind of the reasoning behind it. That's why everybody has gone to aluminum, is because of the repairability.
Repairability, lightweight, thermal efficiency.
Yep.
I mean, you can add a compression point and a half, no problem, just because aluminum is such a good heat sink.
Yep. Yeah, it dissipates heat better, doesn't it?
And the creativity, the flexibility, the ability to make certain changes, that gives you the chance to find horsepower, which is the ultimate quest, even on an 11,000 horsepower nitro engine. It's pretty amazing how the combinations aren't all the same. They're different. Wilk's got his combination that works, and why it works is his secret, and that secret sauce is kept internal.
That's a great point, Joe. You think that all of these motors and all these top fuel cars are the same. They're not. They're not close. I mean, every one of these teams is running a different... I always use Lake's analogy. It's a soup, okay? So each one of the team is running a different ingredient in their soup.
Exactly. Where the power, how much power, and why. Mike Caruso out there, he's retired AERA. He says, "Great job, Chuck." He's cheering you on. Great job,
Hello,
Chuck.
Mike.
Yes, exactly.
Long time friend.
We've got our next bit coming up, but just real quick while I got you guys here, here we are, middle of day 2, coming down this stretch. The exchange of knowledge that is happening both here on the air, which is documented for everyone, but also in the other room. It's been pretty amazing to watch all you guys work and exchange information.
Oh, absolutely. And, I said it yesterday, this is a group of friends in the industry. We're friends away. On our leisure time at home, we're texting the same people. We're having some of the same conversations. One thing about gearheads, we live this. It's 24/7.
It is.
It's a
lifestyle.
passion. It's not a job.
Passion, lifestyle. Remember, we're building. The build engine continues. Lake will be back soon. We're going to do another one of these in January, by the way, guys. So be ready for that, the 13th and 14th of January, Engine Performance Expo Part 3. And you can share it with your friends out there on social media. It'll all be up on engineperformanceexpo.com. What a day, what a day, what a day. Yeah, my brain is swollen. I've learned so much today. They told us, don't start cars. We are not going to listen.